60 Minutes Rewind.
Even as bombs continue to rain down on Afghanistan, for the Afghan people, this is the latest chapter in 23 years of war. The Afghan men and boys have fought and died in those wars, so women became the pillars of Afghan society, its doctors, lawyers, professors, judges. But all that changed 5 years ago when the Taliban took power and took away women's rights. Since then, for the women of Afghanistan, the veil, the burqa, has become the symbol of the Taliban's power. Even women who fled to the United States have been afraid to remove that veil of repression, fearing reprisals on their family back home and from Taliban supporters here in America. But tonight, that changes. We have a rare opportunity to meet some courageous young women, recent refugees, who unveil more than just their faces. They also unveil a glimpse, sometimes horrifying, of life under the Taliban. Huma, Marina, and Gulnar were all students when the Taliban took over in 1996. Sonia was working as a doctor, and Mila was a psychologist at the local university. What they have in common are stories of persecution and loss. Who did you lose?
I lost my father and my brother.
Huma was 18 when the Taliban attacked her town and, she says, randomly massacred hundreds of civilians.
They killed everybody. On the streets and the shops, you didn't see anybody. They got into our house and got my father and my brother and took them out.
Did you ever see them again after they were taken?
I didn't see them. After a night, our neighbor came and said that there's like a downtown, there's a special place for people that yesterday they were being killed. And if you want to go ahead and see and find your loved ones. So my mom and with my older sister went, and they came back with broken hearts.
Afghanistan is a country of broken hearts, a nation of people with stories about loss of life and loss of freedom. Forced under the burqa, women are forbidden to leave the house without a male relative. They can't attend work or school. They can't laugh out loud. And if they're wearing nail polish, they could have their nails pulled out.
One day I went with my mother for grocery shopping, and I used nail polish on my toes.
Perhaps because she was only 13 when the Taliban saw the polish, they let Gulnar go with a beating, but they also beat her mother for letting her wear the polish. Fear of these brutal punishments kept some women virtual prisoners in their own homes. Mila says that for 5 years, she left the house only once or twice a month. But for many women, staying home was no safer.
Taliban ordered people who had young girls, and they said, put a flag on the roof of your house, a white flag, so nobody can come to your house or do something. But that wasn't that wasn't the right thing. Actually,
that wasn't what they really meant.
Yeah, they meant to go to their house and make their daughters to marry them.
That's what happened to Gulnar's family. 5 years ago, a Taliban soldier decided he wanted to marry her 16-year-old sister.
They come 2 or 3 times to talk with my mother and my father. My father said, no, I don't want to be married with my daughter. So after that, 2 persons come and took my father.
3 days later, she says, they left his mutilated body in front of the house. And then they came back and took her sister anyway. This was 5 years ago?
Yeah, 5 years.
And 5 years you've never heard anything about your sister?
No,
never
nothing.
Saw her yet?
No, never.
It's a country where everything has been turned inside out. University professors have become beggars, and the main attraction at a sports arena is no longer the game, it's an execution, complete with refreshments for the spectators. Mila says she saw a couple being stoned to death. The crime, she says, a hidden love affair.
They buried them alive, all the way up to their necks. They gave stones to everyone, ordering them to throw the rocks at the couple until they were stoned to death.
Taliban law prohibits executing a pregnant woman, But a year ago, when the religious police, the dreaded Department of Vice and Virtue, wanted to break that rule, they went to the hospital and asked the gynecologist on duty to lie about the woman's condition. That gynecologist was Sonia, one of the few women allowed to work under the Taliban.
They ordered me to write that she's not pregnant, but I remember that he was illiterate, the Taliban official. I told them that I wrote that she wasn't pregnant, but I wrote in the document, this woman is carrying a baby.
When the Taliban discovered her deception, Sonia says she was fired and that her act of rebellion cost her more than just her job.
On my way back home, I saw a Land Cruiser behind my house. Usually, the Taliban drive Land Cruisers. I was very panicked. I asked the neighbor, what's happening? What's going on? And they said, please don't go to the house. It's all about you. And they told me that the Taliban had killed my brother.
Sonia says she never went home again. The next day, she escaped, like so many others, to neighboring Pakistan. She hasn't seen her family since. Resettled by refugee agencies in the United States within the last 2 months, she and the others are beginning to relish the simple freedoms they've been denied for years. Freedom to study, to dress as they please, to wear nail polish, to shop, and to pray openly in a mosque, as Gulnar and her young sisters did last Friday for the first time in 6 years. Does it feel strange to be in the United States, openly talking about this, not covering your head if you don't want to?
We feel very free, but sometimes I get nervous when I leave the house. I think, where's my burqa? Where's my veil? Then I remember, this is America.